talking to us in Macedonia. And Peter Sutherland, many thanks, UN Special Representative for International Migration. Thank you. 10:26, let's talk to our political guru, Norman Smith, who has been looking at whether new Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn has already changed the rules of political interviewing. Norman, I'm intrigued. Go ahead.
Well, Vic, the thought is this. We've seen how Jeremy Corbyn has changed the rules when it comes to Prime Minister's questions, doing it in a very, very different style. Last night, he did a big round of broadcast interviews, the set-piece political interviews, and again seemed to completely change the rules, to chuck the old sort of textbook out the window. Now, this is where we do our sort of interviews at the Beeb at Westminster. Someone's doing an interview in there. This is kind of, if you turn around here, you'll see where we do most of the a lot of the sort of set-piece television interviews we'll do here. So I would sit down here, and the politician, Jeremy Corbyn or whatever, would sit down there. And they are actually extraordinarily formulaic in the sense that the politician comes in, he has rehearsed, prepared his lines, he knows the sound bites he wants to give, he's carefully worked out what he's wearing, he knows whether to cross his leg or to uncross his leg. There is a fraught negotiation beforehand, usually with his minders or with the politician about, the backdrop, is the cushion too high, so on and so forth. Jeremy Corbyn did it entirely differently last night. Just have a look at his sort of pre-match conversation. It wasn't a negotiation, it was just a chat with the camera crews and the interviewers.
Hi, how you doing?
Hello, Jeremy. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Nice to see you.
Hi.
Do you all need tea or anything? Are you all right?
That's very kind. I'll just very quickly say, this is Katie who runs everything at the
Hi,
BBC.
Katie.
This is my boss, Chris and Jess, who work with me, and you'll see all of us around a lot in the next hour.
Nice to see you all. Welcome. Thank you very much. You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Now, what was interesting when the interview got underway, normally politicians, they know their answers before you've even asked the question, but Jeremy Corbyn last night, almost frankly, seemed to be thinking aloud. So when he was asked a question about the Privy Council and whether he would join it and whether he would kneel before the Queen, you could see him actually almost pondering aloud as to what he was actually going to do. And that is completely different to what we normally expect from politicians. Have a listen to his answer.
Let's say Downing Street have said you are being invited to join the Privy Council. You say you will accept that. Part of that involves kneeling before the Queen. Will you do that?
I didn't know that was involved, actually, so we'll have to find out about it. Okay.
But will you do it? That isn't the ceremony, that is what is involved.
Okay, thank you.
Thinking.
Well, of course I'll end up being a member of the Privy Council if that's what the requirement of the job is. I think there are some things that ought to change in our society, and maybe that's one of them.
The other thing that struck me, Vic, is normally if you ask a politician a hypothetical question, they'll just say, that's a hypothetical question, so I'm not going to answer it. Jeremy Corbyn last night noted when he was asked a hypothetical question that it was a hypothetical question and then answered it. Watch this.
If David Cameron doesn't get a deal that you agree with, can you see Jeremy Corbyn as leader of the Labour Party hypothetically campaigning to leave the EU?
Well, it's a hypothetical question, but what I would do first of all is strongly oppose what Cameron has done and say we have to stay in Europe to change those policies, and that would be a manifesto commitment up to 2020. But we're working this position out at the moment.
That's fascinating, though, because that's a very clear change in your position.
Now, what I find interesting, Vic, is whether Mr Corbyn is actually onto something here, whether people are tired of the very, pat set-piece interview with the sound bites and everything carefully prepared in advance, and actually rather like this more casual, less fussy, more open interview where politicians have space to actually think aloud without being leapt on. The counter view would be, well, it looks confused, it's uncertain, there's a lack of leadership. But, if nothing else, it seems to be Mr Corbyn is forcing us all just to think about how we do our business.
Thank you very much, Norman. I'm really interested to hear what our audience thinks about that, what voters think about that. They will tell us, no doubt, in the next few minutes. But that, in fact, this email from Peter's just come in. It says this: "Oops, Norman, the political world is changing, so you're not in control. Maybe it's time the importance of the interviewer has come to an end."
Yeah, here, I don't have a problem with that at all.
No.
I think, maybe Mr. Corbyn has tapped into something, because even if you talk to journalists like me, there is a certain weariness about the set-piece interview where you can ask a question and then you'll get the answer. Then you ask a different question and you'll still get the same answer. I mean, it has become routine and frankly uninformative, many interviews. So maybe it's not just the politicians that need to think again, but maybe we journalists need to think again, and maybe we have to allow politicians to express views which aren't strictly always on the line and totally in accordance with party policy, and maybe that might encourage a more open and discursive form of political debate, which, let's be honest, would be a good thing.
Totally agree. Thank you very much, Norman. Thank you.